Raised by Demons, a true and accurate autobiography. Well, sorta. Part 9. Tylenol! Croker screamed at his partner after clapping both hands to the sides of his head. You had him take Tylenol? Why not try Lifesavers or double bubble gum? I knew it. I knew leaving you behind was a mistake. If only Sublord Chance Medley had listened to me, but no. He thinks you're the one with all the ideas. What a joke. Why get mad at me? How was I to stop him? Snuffer complained. I told him chocolate-covered aspirin if he couldn't get sleeping pills. Ack, that's even worse. You idiot. Now I have to go back and report another failure to Sublord Chance Medley. No telling what'll happen to me this time. Where have you been? Snuffer asked. I've been waiting and waiting on you to return. How was I to know when you'd be back? Have you any idea how long it's been? The kid's half grown by now, and he'll be leaving for college before long. You never told me how long I'm supposed to wait. For all I know, you'd been reassigned to another locale and left me in the lurch. You know how impulsive and wishy-washy the sublord is. Where have I been, you ask? Croker bellowed, the question sounding more like an accusation. Where have I been? Oh, nowhere special. Just down in the deepest, worst pit of horrors imaginable. Give Dante's Inferno a read sometime, and then multiply that times 10. You'll maybe get an idea. I don't read scary comics. They give me negative thoughts. It's a narrative poem, half-wit, from the 14th century, describing the author's version of perdition, but compared to reality, his imaginings are trifling drivel. I've been down all 8 circles to the bottom and encountered such martyrs as Adolf, Uncle Joe, and Chairman Mao. Actually, we got along quite well, and they even agreed to autographs after their acid bath when the lake man-eater finished with them, but the fiend took too long, so I left. Where have you been? The abyss? Snuffer gasped. Is that where you've been? None other. But the sightseeing trip taught me a lesson, Croker said, his voice turning solemn. We must not. We cannot. We shall not fail. Above all, we have to succeed, no matter the chicanery involved, no matter the duplicity, no matter the cost to ourselves or others. Please don't tell me you bungled any more attempts than the Tylenol pill fiasco. Well, as a matter of fact, Oh, no. Not another botched debacle. You can't have. Let's see. Snuffer hemmed and hawed. Nothing seriously. At least not too. Well, there was a thing or two, or now that I think about it, but hardly worth mentioning. They were of so little consequence, really. Oh, I should have known. I should have known. What now? Oh, don't take it so seriously. You'll probably laugh when I tell you. What makes me think I won't? Won't what? Snuffer asked. Laugh. Oh, anyway, Henry bought a junker motorcycle he called a chopper with the money he saved from summer jobs. You know the type. Not much there but engine and little else, like brakes. The foot pedals kept falling off, which was bad, as he rode shoeless a lot in a sleeveless blue jean jacket, no shirt, and cutoffs. At the time, Marlon Brando in The Wild One was popular, and Henry became a fan. Get on with it. Oh, well, he drove the stripped-down motorcycle like crazy when it run, which wasn't often, up until the day an 80-year-old coot ran a stop sign. You should have seen the codger at the trial. Talk about old. And him still driving? That alone should have been against the law. Trial, Croker marveled. There was a trial? Oh, sure, Snuffer said. Both drivers got tickets, the old guy for not stopping at a stop sign, and the kid for speeding. I was on back, of course, and kept urging the reckless little daredevil to go faster and faster. He was doing 60 at least on a residential street. How could you tell that? Skid marks. There were 160 feet of black marks before the collision. And this is the funny part. At the trial, Henry acted as his own lawyer. You should have seen him among all those suits and ties and black robes, and him in his sleeveless blue jean jacket, cutoffs, and moccasins. Talk about funny. I thought surely the judge would throw him out. Get on with it, Croker cut him off. Anyway, Henry argues the cops' evidence was faulty since the measurements were for stopping with 2 brakes, front and back. But his stripped-down chopper only had 1, so the 160 feet skid marks had to be halved, making him under the speed limit. The judge voided his ticket, and the stop sign runner had to pay the repairs to his bike, plus ambulance and medical bills. So the kid was hurt? Should have been killed, Snuffer claimed. But like I say, he's protected. And this is an even funnier part. He broadsided the car at the exact perfect spot. If he'd hit anywhere else at that speed, he'd have been a dead fish. But he slammed into the back quarter panel behind the rear windshield and the bumper, so that he flew over the car. After skidding on the asphalt, the blacktop burns would have been worse, except he landed on his face. His face? Croker gasped. And he still had one left afterwards? That's the funniest part. Well, to me at least. He'd been to the burger joint and had his lunch sack in his teeth. Snuffer stifled a giggle. The noise of the wreck brought all these rubberneckers out of their houses. Henry still lay in the street, unable to move. Finally, he lifts his head and women scream and hid their kids' eyes as 1 or 2 got sick in the bushes. I have to admit, as I was standing there, his face looked mangled with bones showing and torn flesh and dangling muscles, plus an eyeball hanging out. But turns out, the blood and gore were really hamburger chunks, French fries, ketchup, mustard, and a cherry from a cup of banana pudding. He guffawed at the punchline. What's so funny? Croker snapped without cracking a smile. Now look what you've done. I've got to go back and report to Sub-Lord Chance Medley yet another failure. Can't you do anything right? No telling what happens to me this time. My only chance is to play the accident down and hope he thinks we had nothing to do with the wreck. But you better not try any more idiotic ideas. Should the kid want to jump off the tallest building, stop him. Otherwise, he's bound to survive. One more failure and I may never get out of the abyss. While I'm gone, occupy yourself with some harmless activity like watching TV or playing pinball. Anything, but don't dare meddle with our project. Get me? Whatever you say, boss. But this time try not to be gone long, Snuffer requested. I'm telling you, the kid is despondent. School's a failure. He has no friends. He's a complete flop, and he knows it. Another serious setback or 2 should be the end of him. But don't worry. I'll do like you say and stay out of the way until you get back. Generally speaking, persistence outlasts despair until things turn around. For Henry, that happened by joining the high school swim team. He was a natural. Feet like flippers, scoop-sized hands, and coil springs for back muscles made him a human water bug. In other sports, he was hampered by asthma, but not swimming. In water, he had the stamina of a dolphin. His team was so talented compared to other high schools, they competed against college freshmen at top-flight swimming programs such as SMU and the University of Texas. Henry, with no prior training and never having raced except the 4th of July at the country club, earned a purple jacket with the school letter M, plus winning all-state. True, the one member of their 4-man relay team went on to win 4 gold medals at the Mexico Olympics, but Henry got his picture in the paper just the same. The coach would later tell him if he'd had him for 3 years of high school instead of just 1, he could have had 2 Olympians on his resume. More importantly, for the first time in his life, Henry achieved recognition for accomplishing something worthwhile. But alas, his parents were too preoccupied to witness any of it, including his winning All-State. Before leaving high school for college, one of those insignificant incidents that end up life-changing occurred. While walking down the hall at school, students started coming up to Henry with comments such as, "Woo-wee, aren't you the one?" and my, the teacher's pet," and "Looky, is that Mark Twain?" and so on until Henry stopped someone and asked what the heck was going on. He learned his teacher, Mrs. Harris, read a short story he wrote to all her classes as an example of descriptive writing. The good-natured ribbing died away after a day or two, but later on, under far more dire circumstances, Mrs. Harris's gracious encouragement would verify the aphorism, "A word of praise makes all the difference." In an attempt to enter the University of Texas, Henry went to summer school and took freshman English, which was the winnowing course separating the wheat from the chaff. Henry ended up chaff. In the fall, then, he neglected to mention to the registrar at Texas Tech, located at the other end of the state, what happened that summer and was accepted as a student. He made an attempt to join the swim team, but the incentive to excel had withered away and old habits revived. Year after year, he underachieved until at last he decided the only validity to the term higher education was the cost. He quit and got a job instead. On the Texaco employment application, he lied, saying he hadn't been to college for fear they'd think him overqualified, which he most assuredly was not. The job consisted of guarding Texaco core samples. At first sight, the stone plugs, as they were called, were valueless, but not to scientists. Cylinder-shaped rocks brought up in drill pipes showed the strata formations under the Earth's crust. There were thousands, if not tens of thousands, all carefully labeled, dated, and so forth, and almost never discarded. Henry's job was to guard the silent many pillars that lay still and in rows upon rows. Now and then, he'd get a call from downtown to locate the correct core and deliver it wherever. Other than that, he might as well have been a watchman at a boneyard. Henry was in essence an employee in absentia. No one from the downtown offices came by the warehouse, and there was no supervision. He could come and go as he pleased. If he felt like it and wasn't ready to go to the apartment he'd rented, he stayed at the warehouse as long as he liked. The building was located in the industrial sector of town, so after quitting time, there were no worries about visitors except for occasional snakes, skunks, or rats big as gray cats. But for those, he'd bought a .22 caliber Colt Western pistol. He practiced quick drawing with the revolver and had even ordered a tie-down holster with leather straps. A replica of the westerns he'd watched as a kid, he'd quick draw from his pocket and fire off shots at the telephone pole across the street. There was no danger, at least he thought so, as the railroad tracks mound behind the pole absorbed any misses. Besides, it was harmless fun, and every now and then he'd maybe have a beer or two. True to his word, Snuffer had so far kept out of Henry's way and left the kid alone, but it seemed like decades since the last time he had any real fun or a good laugh. All he did anymore was follow Henry around, and since he was forbidden to interfere, he couldn't have been more bored watching the second hand of a clock tick by. Then a bonanza. Almost too good to be true. It took someone with Snuffer's keen insight to recognize the opportunity. Guns, alcohol, and a manic depressive. What tipped Snuffer off was Henry started drinking more and more beer at the warehouse, plus practicing with his pistol. Talk about a floater to a home run hitter. If Croker didn't come back soon, they could miss the chance of a lifetime, and who knew if they'd get another. If Henry's mental funk improved, or say he found a girlfriend, or got a better job, or was promoted, there'd go the best hope he and Croaker ever had. No, there was no choice. Snuffer had to get involved, or say goodbye to the chance to finish their mission successfully. Henry, meantime, couldn't believe where all the beer he brought to work vanished. He'd started with an ice chest full, but then, after practicing fast drawing his 6-shooter, found the cooler empty. But that was not the only mystery. Upon arriving at the convenience store to buy more beer, he could not remember if he had closed the warehouse roll-up door. If a Texaco employee happened to be driving through downtown and looked over the railroad tracks at the warehouse light still on this time of night, goodbye job. If only he could remember. Had he closed the roll-up door or not? To be continued. For a continuation of Raised by Demons, plus books, plus free short stories, plus videos, go to thereisageneration.com. All one word, thereisageneration.com.